So that is The Creation with Making Time. Great little song. And that is from the Nuggets 2 compilation, box set of great little gems, garage rocky type esque stuff ish from the 60s. And there is a couple of compilations. The first one being the American stuff. That stuff rocks as well. But this British invasion stuff is just as good, if not better. And the song also was probably most popularized in a little known movie known as Rushmore by Wes Anderson. For those of you not familiar with Wes Anderson, you now have some homework to do. Grab a few of his early movies, watch them, enjoy them, and also if you get a chance, pick up one or both of these Nuggets box sets if you like the older garage rock stuff. Plan to throughout this broadcast let you hear a number of snippets of things as we move along. And of course, the other cool thing about this song is, in fact, towards the end, there's kind of a lower, deeper guitar sound, rather abrupt, but very cool. And what I'm referring to is if you take the bow that you would play a violin with and use that on the guitar, that's what's going on. Very cool little technique. They're not the only ones to do that. I don't know if they're the first to do it, but still cool nonetheless. So yeah, that was Creation Making Time from the Nuggets 2 box set. Check that out if you're curious. I don't think you'll be disappointed. And if you don't know by now, I'll remind you this is Jason, aka AJ Toynbee, with the Hexes and Soldiers show. And why AJ Toynbee? When I first started this whole thing, I was extremely shy, and to an extent, I still am. Didn't want to use my real name. Thought I'd use a nom de plume, moniker, whatever. So that's where the AJ Toynbee thing came in. But just started using my real name as things went on, and people started figuring out that that wasn't my real name and using my other name. So therein lies the confusion. How you guys doing? Really? Everybody hanging in there? Everybody doing all right? You survived Thanksgiving? You got your Christmas shopping all done? Ready to roll? New Year coming around? No, me neither. Um, Spent Thanksgiving here with the cat and rather enjoyed it. Didn't have to travel. Didn't have to fight in any crowds at airplane terminals. Got a 7-pound turkey breast, threw that in the oven. Did it up just right. Got some cheap, awful, terrible, horrible brown and serve rolls, but they taste so good. And heated those up. Can of cranberry sauce, sweet potato, good to go. And still doing the no sugar, no caffeine thing. So as far as dessert, I guess I didn't have any. But after 45 years of eating and drinking whatever the hell I wanted, I don't feel sorry for myself. Time to buckle up and batten down the hatches. And I guess since I don't want to exercise, it's the least I can do is adjust my diet. So sticking to that, and then yeah, no Christmas shopping done yet, other than the things I've purchased for myself. I continually keep hitting the buy now button on eBay and finding things that I don't need but I desperately want. So that's that. If you hear the cat in the background, that's the cat in the background. Um, what else? So yeah, doing good so far. Winter is upon us, and I think we got a week or so until winter solstice hits. It feels like we're well into winter, but it hasn't even started yet. Days get shorter, starting to get colder, and not sure I'm ready for. Yeah, I guess I'm ready for it. I'm ready for fall is what I'm ready for, but didn't get much of a fall season here in New Orleans. We seem to skip straight from summer to winter, so maybe we'll get a few days here at some point that are fall-like. But if not, then what do you do? What else off the top of my head before I get to the nitty-gritty? Uh, St. Louis Blues hockey, terrible, awful. We suck. Probably the worst year ever since I've been watching, and I'm not exaggerating. We've got players fighting in practice. We've fired a coach. We're bottom of the standings. And the fundamental basic things that you learn to do in high school, we seem to have forgotten how to do. So I have no idea what the hell's going on. This is going to be the year of watching other teams, I guess. That's fine. I still love the sport, and I can enjoy watching hockey simply because it is hockey. Been checking out the New Orleans Saints only because they've been on fire. Can't not pay attention to that. So I've caught a few football games, and I'm not a football or baseball or basketball guy. It's always been just hockey, but I'm starting to maybe respect the sport a little more than I did. I will never be one to religiously watch football for football's sake, or even the Saints for Saints' sake, for that matter. But we were on a 10-game winning streak there at one point, so it's kind of exciting to see how long they could push that. So that was exciting, and I think that about covers all the nonsensical stuff that I can think of. For those of you keeping score, it's been 11 months since the significant other left. Still trying to deal with that. It's rough, man, I tell you. After being with somebody for as long as 10, 11, 12 years, I don't remember. And then them not being around, it's a hell of an adjustment. But I'm dealing with that as best I can. Thank you for your support. So I think, yeah, let's move on to the next segment. And I'll catch you on the part two.
If you want life to survive, yeah, you better play it right. And know the best things in life are free, and I guess it's time for you to see. 'Cause they're changing the colors of life.
All right, welcome back. Let's see what's up next. We have, let's see what's on the table. Currently, I always feel like I'm letting people down when I tell them what's on the table. Maybe I feel like I'm letting myself down. I have all these games. I've got oodles and oodles of games that, to be honest with you, there's sheets of counters that haven't been punched, rule books that haven't been read, maps that haven't been spread open and fully appreciated. Yet I continue to variate upon variate, the same games and tweak them and change them and mess with them. I don't know what my problem is. I guess I feel like I'm creating something in a sense, and it's been a while since the last game that I did, but I don't know when or if I have another game in me. That advanced platoon leader kicked my butt and put out Soldiers of the Sun after that, but I don't know that I have another one in me. That said, I've been fulfilling the creative urge or niche with the usual tweaking of games. So anyway, what I've done most recently is, for those of you that haven't noticed or watched a couple of videos I put up here, took Conflict of Heroes and copied the maps, blew them up, made them this big, huge single map board thing. And then after staring at that for a while, decided I'm going to get the hexes from the cardboard terrain hexes from Commands and Colors. I've got about 3 copies of Commands and Colors, the base game, primarily because I use the blocks for game creation, playtesting, etc. But there's a number of other included elements in that game that I incorporate into creative stuff. So I was looking at the little cardboard cutouts, terrain cutouts, and decided I would take the terrain that I printed out from Conflict of Heroes, print out some more, cut those, fit them on the hexes. So you have this kind of staggered layer effect. Then I took some black foam board and made hills, and I just went nuts. What am I doing? I think what I'm doing is therapy, though I'm not sure. It's a way to stay sane, though some might argue it's a way to go insane. Maybe both approaches are correct. Nevertheless, that is what I've been doing. That is on the table. And then, of course, not to stop there, I had to find about 500 little tiny cubes from Risk. and went the Kriegspiel route and printed out infantry, cavalry, and artillery insignia, placed it on there. Got some letters and printed out kind of notation system to keep track of groupings of units and leaders, and just been kind of going nuts here. But I have to say, the end result is most pleasing to the eye. This is arguably the most lovely thing I've done that I can remember by way of just fiddling with something. Um, I did a somewhat similar thing with some bigger hexes, but those are back in St. Louis, and yeah, the material I used to represent the terrain is kind of hokey, so it works, but it just isn't as eye-catching as this stuff. And then for those of you that know me, you know that I bounce back and forth between World War II and Napoleon, World War II and Napoleon. So I've been on this long Napoleon swing, and I know myself pretty well, and I can feel it start slowly swinging the other way. So as I look at this just wonderful map board that I have before me, it's silently calling out for me to place some sort of World War II tactical counters on them and go that route. So that may be the route that I go, unless I can break the cycle and interject one of these many, many games that I need to play. Um, which brings us to what have I recently acquired? And I guess this is going to be the most embarrassing part of the show again, because I've kind of lost my mind a little bit with acquiring things. As if I need another freaking game in my life ever. Um, Today, I get some updates from delivery confirmations, and I get everything delivered to work because of where I live. I just don't trust packages sitting on the porch, or it rains and the things on the porch get wet, or it's one of 15 different letter carriers this week because there's such high turnover in the post office, and they decide maybe they don't feel like delivering it today, so I don't get it when I'm supposed to, or any number of things. So I get things delivered to work. I go to work today, 3 packages there to be picked up, and I open the first one, and it's Ran. I don't know if any of you are remember this game or are familiar with it, or Ron. Samurai game, GMT. Came out after the Samurai game came out, and I've always wanted one of these games because there's a soft spot in my heart, and it has been, for these samurai stuff. Sengoku Jidai, period, to be concise. So that was one, and of course, 2 map sheets, but I think there's 3 half-size maps on the back and 1 full-size map, something to that effect. The counter sheets look great. I've heard some iffy things about the rule book. In fact, I've been hearing some iffy things about GMT rules in general from various people, and I don't know if it's coincidental, but the negativity surrounding some of these rule books that GMT has released is surprising, if only because the quality and standard that I and I'm sure many have come to associate with GMT releases is pretty high up there. But nonetheless, um, keep hearing things, and Hitler's Reich, obviously a big eyesore for GMT with the rule book, and then uh, I like to do a little research on the game before I buy it and make sure it's not a complete clunker, that it's at least playable. And Ran, I almost didn't pull the trigger because of some of the things I was reading about the rule book, but I did, and I'm sure everything will be just fine. Twilight Struggle, yeah, all right. Go ahead and laugh, get it over with. I finally bought Twilight Struggle. It's not a war game, um, but there's something to it. To get such consistently high ratings year after year after year, and everybody seems to love this thing. There's there's no reason to be that guy that doesn't get a game just because everybody likes it. That's a silly reason not to do something. So at some point, when who knows, I'm gonna try and find out what the big deal is with Twilight Struggle, and I have a feeling that I'll get it, I'll like it, and I'll understand better what the mass appeal is regarding that game. And then the third game of the three packages I rescued from work today consisted of a Hexes Flight of the Eagles, Austerlitz. Is that the flight? And if I could back up, only recently just required Waterloo, Hexasims Waterloo Fallen Eagles. So you see my problem. I've got games coming out of the ears, and I need to be playing these things, not just buying them. Let's see, looking at the shelves off the top of my head. What is there anything else recently purchased? Yes, the old Napoleon game from Columbia Games. I had a homemade copy of that back in the day and played the crud out of that and just loved it. And never owned a full bona fide official copy, so I rectified that. So there's another game. And we're not even mentioning the, I've got for at least 3 or 4, 5 pre-orders I'm still waiting on. Um, that hasn't changed, so I think I mentioned those in the last episode. I won't waste anybody's time going over those again. And that may be it as far as recent acquisitions, which that is plenty. I still have Skies Above the Reich staring me in the face, pointing its wings at me and threatening me if I don't play it, and I'm a mess. What can I say? So that's what's been on my table and things I've acquired, and well, there's one other thing on my table, and I've sounded the alert a little bit about this already, but you know, it's a big deal for me, and I'm fairly excited, so I'm gonna go into it some more. The Hexes and Soldiers magazine, that is ready, that is done. This was a project I started back in, I think, late July, August, something to that effect, and I put the call out on a number of places for submissions for articles, and I thought, you never know, maybe if I even just get one person. It doesn't have to be somebody famous or even infamous or uh, anybody whose name somebody else might know. Just anyone, so I don't have to fill this thing up with words from my own mouth. Um, so after putting the call out, to my surprise, I got a number of replies, and among those being Adam Starkweather, Shane Logan, let's see, Sean Chick, Stuka Joe. I tried my damnedest to get Kev Sharp to submit something, and I guess either uh, he doesn't like me, or he just is too busy, or just didn't see the point, or maybe he felt like it was a trick. Couldn't get nothing out of him. That's fine. And Eric Lee Smith, um, I thought sure I could get something out of him. He's hooked me up in the past. For those of you that don't know or don't remember, I play tested his early Gettysburg game that is now out as Battle Hymn, and he was extremely nice in allowing me to play test that and supplying me with components, and that was a hell of an experience. Probably the most in-depth play testing I've ever done in my life for someone else. That was pretty intense, but also rewarding and fun. I also commented on his Battle of the Bulge game, that iOS system for iPhone and iPad. And I said, hey, that map is just beautiful, and I know that there's a physical copy of that thing that exists because at the War Game Convention here in New Orleans, there was a guy showing it off. And I said, how would I acquire something like that? Long story short, he just sends me the actual printed playtest map that they used in the mail. I couldn't believe it, so I took that thing, blew it up, and had fun with that. And he's helped me with some other things. He did a blurb for a game and some other stuff here and there. But anyway, he's like, Jason, I'd love to do an article for you. When do you need it by? And I told him, and he's like, man, I just can't get it to you that soon. Uh, Come to find out, he's got his hands in a fantasy football league of all things, and a legitimate thing online where he's going to make money. I'm happy for him, as if as if he needs more success in his life. The guy's been successful most of his life, to my knowledge. But hats off to him for that. I wish him the best. So I didn't get a submission from him, but came close. But the submissions I did get, I am more than thankful for. Just ecstatic and excited for the magazine. So went through the usual printer that I use in New York, the same printer I used for um, Advanced Platoon Leader, that limited print run. Got the review copy a couple days ago and gave them the go ahead on the rest of them. So by the end of this week, it is December 10th that I record this. By the mid to the later point of this week, those will be available. And for those of you that made submissions, you'll be getting a free copy of the magazine and a Hexes and Soldiers T-shirt. Yes, a coveted limited edition Hexes and Soldiers T-shirt. Yay! Right. So the magazine and anything else I'm forgetting. I don't think that there's anything else. So that covers what's new with me and what I've acquired and what's been on the table. So for the next segment, we're going to look at the 2018 is now almost behind us. I would say it was a decent year for game releases. I don't know that it's one for the record books, but it was no stick in the mud party pooper year, that's for sure. So what we'll do is take a quick break, and in the next segment, see what happened in 2018.
You're pushing too hard, or pushing on me. You're pushing too hard on what you want me to be. You're pushing too hard about the things you say. You're pushing too hard every night and day. You're pushing too hard on me.
All right, welcome back to the 2018 in review. Now, I've compiled a list of things from the old BGG, and this would be obviously things that were released in 2018. Now, I guess I slept on a lot of things because I don't remember quite so much stuff. There was way more stuff that was released than I remember. Not all of it probably garnered the attention it should have, and I guess some things probably garnered attention that wasn't warranted. But I've filtered a lot of this stuff through, let's see, tailored the advanced search to higher ratings, user ratings for games. One might argue with that technique. In doing so, I might have inadvertently excluded some things that should not have been excluded. But hey, it's not a 100% foolproof process. There's no secret algorithm that I can think of to use to tailor the list to sheer perfection. So that said, let's take a look at some of the things, and I've already mentioned one of them. Again, this is 2018 in review. Let's start with Hitler's Reich. GMT game. This was Mark McLaughlin's baby, and Mark McLaughlin, personally, am most familiar with him through, wasn't it War and Peace that he did? Let's take a look here, make sure I get my P's and Q's right. Yep, War and Peace. So for me, that was my introduction to Mark McLaughlin. He has a number of games out, and has met with a lot of approval regarding those games. Hitler's Reich was not one of those, and I got to hand it to the gamers out there, you guys, because of your honesty. You're not going to try and pretend to like something simply because of who designed it or the company that put it out. You didn't fall prey to a reputation, and I appreciate that because Hitler's Reich has problems. It has issues. Um, I made mention of this on the Hexes and Soldiers channel, and other people made mention. It was kind of fun to watch it start to roll out these negative reviews regarding the rulebook. It was almost as if we were scared to say anything. But once the first few folks started saying, "Hey, something doesn't feel right about this rule," but then it was a snowball. Then everybody was like, the floodgates had opened at that point, and everybody's like, "Oh, thank God!" There was a sigh of relief that it's not just me. I haven't, lost the touch when it comes to learning a new game or comprehending and chewing up and digesting some rules. No, it wasn't you guys. It was in fact the rule book, and GMT even finally went so far as to admit that the rule book wasn't up to snuff, wasn't what it should have been, and to their uh, to their credit, did their best to rectify the situation, and and no ill will towards Mark McLaughlin. Nobody holds it against him. Um, I just somehow this game along the way, it was supposed to be a simple game, a quick play, easy game, and again, somewhere along the way, as the rule book was getting, I guess it had already been written. It was decided that we needed a rule for this, so we'll tack it on here. We need a rule for that, so we'll tack it on there. And that just this just slowly started ruining it, and the thing started becoming incomprehensible, made no sense. So that was a shame. But Hitler's Reich. So I thought I'd make mention of that. And again, these are not this list does not consist of a any order of best to worst or worst to best, or and it could be good games, it could be bad games. It's just a list of notables that stand out in my mind that I pulled from Board Game Geek, and thought I should make mention of. The next one, You Boot. I was watching this game take Kickstarter by storm, and I don't remember how much this thing made, but it was pretty impressive the amount of people that backed this on Kickstarter. This was by a company called Phalanx, and I will attempt to pronounce the designer's names: Bartosz Bluta and Artur Salvarowski. Came up with an idea to use an app that you download on your phone and incorporate that with the gameplay. Basically, what you have here, right, is a kind of Hunters style sub game, World War II, German U-boat, with a cool cardboard cutout submarine and little guys, and it's almost like worker placement, Euro flavor to it with what you're doing. Lots of strategy, lots of tactics, and the controversy arose inadvertently through the adding on of the app. People decided it was time to debate whether or not a board game is still a board game if you throw in an app that you use for it. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's a good idea. Now, if every board game that was ever released has this and you're required to use it to play the thing, then I'm not going to be happy with that. But as long as there's choices, that's always a good thing. I thought it was innovative. I don't have the game, I haven't played it, but I've read and seen reviews. And again, I thought it was clever and definitely worth noting as one of the highlights of 2018. That was You Boot, the uh, the board game. Yeah, that's part of the name. You Boot, the board game. Came out in 2018. How many people own this now? It looks like only at least Board Game Geek users 195, but there's over 1,000 that want it. Speaking of wish list, on the Board Game Geek, I have free games that I've put on Board Game Geek that all you do is scroll down to the file section and click download and you have it. And you know what people have done? They've clicked on those games in their wish list. Does that make any sense? Just download it and you have it. You don't have to wish for it. Okay, I digress. That was Hitler's Reich and U-Boot, and that brings us to Great War Commander. And I wanted to make mention of this game because the publishing company is doing good things these days. Not that they weren't doing good things, but it's particularly these days doing good things. Hexes, of course, Hexes, um, responsible for the Eagles series, Napoleonic stuff, Fallen Eagles, Rising Eagles, Flight of the Eagle, Philadelphia Eagles, all the above. So, Great War Commander is what it says. It's a World War One tactical, not strategic. This is a tactical approach. Think of Combat Commander meets World War One, and you've got it. Except for one key thing, and that is the map boards. My God, if only Combat Commander had maps like this, and there's no reason they couldn't have. For whatever reason, somebody somewhere is just fond of and addicted to that map style that is in so many GMT games such as Panzer, Fighting Formations, Combat Commander. Yeah, it's functional, but I don't get it. I'll never get it. When you look at something like these maps on Great War Commander and you think, okay, you have the capability of putting these things out. Why aren't more people doing it? You know, maybe you'll bang your head against the wall like I have been. But this thing looks good. It's legit. It's thick, and I mean that literally. This is a big box of stuff. Lots of scenarios, lots of map boards. My only question is the first, and this is going to be a series, I believe. And the first in the series deals with the Doughboys and the Germans, or is it the French? Let's see. Read through real quick. Yeah, it doesn't have the British in it. Well, I don't get that. Wouldn't you have the British in the first? If you're going to do a World War One tactical series, wouldn't you start with the British in there? Well, they didn't. So I don't get that. So yeah, it's the French and the Germans and the Americans. But it says the British, the Russians, the Austrians, the Turks, uh, upcoming sequels. So I guess they know how to market the stuff, right? And you know, it's okay. This is a marketing thing as well. I get it. That was Great War Commander, and of the three so far mentioned, I do have Hitler's Reich. Thought about U-Boot, but didn't do it. And I have come close to Great War Commander, may yet still. That brings us to Skies Above the Reich. This would be a GMT game. Another GMT game. GMT, pretty prolific in their releases, and as long as these things stay tight, I'm okay with that. But as soon as they start having issues and they start releasing broken games, and you need to slow down the production. Some might say they need to do so, already need to do that, but it's arguable. Solitaire game, and that's the thing. And I wrote an article in the Hexes and Soldiers magazine about solitaire games, how it's really come into its own. There was a time when solitaire gamers were kind of a fringe group, and to an extent that still goes on. There's a ton of people that just don't get it, and they really only game for the social aspect, that angle of it. Um, but I go into solitaire games and solitaire gaming and how it's kind of come about and come into its own, and really now it's gained so much traction. It's almost, I want to say the standard, but definitely no longer a fringe uh, thing. Skies Above the Reich, solitaire game. You've got your Luftwaffe struggling to deter and destroy uh, day raids over Germany, of course, during World War II. And takes place from 42 to 45. Again, this is something I wanted to make mention of because the approach, the way they tackle this, at least from what I can tell, appears to be again somewhat of an innovative approach. There are a number of playthroughs of this, reviews on YouTube that you can watch. I'm not going to go through it because of time's sake, but you can look at. I think Blast Pop has a review. Armed Medic has a review. Somebody named Alec. Mozilla. Shmoo. Gimpy Gamer. You can watch Gimpy's Gal Guess Skies Above the Reich. I'll pass, but I know a lot of people enjoy that. You can watch any number of people. Of course, Marco. He's got to do a review on it. Players Aid did a review on it. I think even the Chief. So check out one of those if you're curious and decide if that's for you. And give it a try because as far as the subject matter goes, I don't think you can do much much better. Let's see. That brings us to, speaking of innovation, I've been watching this guy for a while, and I really like his choices for subject matter to create a game on. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about David Thompson. David Thompson is the designer of Castle Itter and Pavlov's House. And he's working on another game, I think. The name escapes me at the moment. David Thompson also did the art for this, and I have a lot of respect for people that both design and do the art. It's not an easy thing to tackle, but he tackles it well. What is Pavlov's House? Stalingrad stuff. Let's see. You take control of the valiant defenders of a Soviet strongpoint in Stalingrad as they hold out against constant German attacks for almost 2 months. Now, this is a real thing. This is a historical occurrence that took place in Stalingrad. A number of games have scenarios. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is Advanced Squad Leader. Scenarios that deal with this event. I don't know of any other games that solely tackle this event. This does though. You hold out against. So you're the Russians. You hold out against constant German attacks for nearly 2 months. It says you also control the key leaders throughout the Soviet 62nd Army that made the defense of Pavlov's House possible. So the goal is to last until the 7th Company, 3rd Battalion, 42nd Guards Rifle Regiment of the 13th Guards Division is tasked with storming a key German strongpoint during the Battle of Stalingrad. You do this by utilizing a deck of cards which represent the German 6th Army. And Pavlov's House, it says, was a fortified apartment building used as a strong point by the Soviets during the pivotal Battle of Stalingrad. The building's name was drawn from Yakov Pavlov, a sergeant who led the initial storm group assault that resulted in the capture of the building from the Germans. The story of Pavlov's House was a key piece of Soviet propaganda and was used as a symbol of the incredible resistance of Soviet forces during the Battle of Stalingrad. And then one of the things I like about this is you've got two perspectives going on as you play this. You have a scoped out strategic view, and then you have a zoomed in tactical approach side by side. I really like that idea. I wish more games would do this because you get the best of both worlds. You don't have to do just strategic or just tactical, and it really does allow you to zoom in and zoom out and gain a great perspective on the battle as a whole. So Dan Viersen Games is who put that out. Good for Dan for giving this guy a shot and recognizing the value, potential enjoyment and playability of this game, Pavlov's House. I do not own Pavlov's House, but again, I came close to getting that. That brings us to, this is Eric Lee Smith's Puppy, and this is the one that I play tested a number of years ago. I don't know what the holdup was with this, but it was held up for quite a while and then finally released. This is Battle Hymn Volume One, Gettysburg and Pea Ridge, Eric Lee Smith, and put out by Compass Games. If you haven't seen this yet, please go look at it. Look at the Gettysburg map. You're not going to see a map like this. I haven't. It's beautiful. It's not overdone. Um, and this might sound weird, but it's the right balance between real and game. You can make a map look too real, and I talk about this as well in one of the articles in the magazine. Um, I don't know why, but playing on a map that is too realistic with counters, it clashes because at the end of the day, you're moving square cardboard counters across what looks like a photo, and it doesn't mesh right. Go look at this map, Gettysburg Battle Hymn Volume 1. It is damn near perfection. Um, Oddly enough, if you get to the P Ridge map, and I hope I didn't hurt his feelings because I talked to him about this, and I said, the Gettysburg map looks fantastic, but are you going to do the P Ridge map in the same way? And he's like, well, it is the same way. And I was like, oh, it doesn't look the same. It looks different. It's still doable. It's still good, but it's the Gettysburg game, the Gettysburg map in particular that you get this game for. And again, I have played this. I played um, a homebrewed copy of this that I printed off, and I think I won as the Confederates. Which that when I told Eric that he was very pleased, and I want to assume I guess he was pleased because that shows that you can in fact win with the South, and that I guess helps show that it is balanced because you don't want to always just have the North kicking butt over and over and over, never be able to win with the Stars and Bars. But it was fun. I liked it. I liked the combat system. It was a D10 system. Worked really well. Truth be told, I was somewhat inspired by that when it came to the Platoon Leader series. There's a lot in that Platoon Leader game that I did. I tried to take the best from what I knew, and melt it all together. But there's a little of this Gettysburg game in there. So yeah, Gettysburg, Eric Lee Smith, and that was of course Compass Games. Compass Games, you know, they're putting themselves on the map. Is that John Krantz? Is he the one that is the face behind Compass Games? I want to say yes. I'm sorry, John, if I'm wrong. Sorry, John, that I don't know. But Compass Games is really, what am I trying to say? They're becoming another GMT, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Compass Games is not new; they've been around for a while. But I think what I'm trying to say is they're demanding with what they put out, the quality and the games. They're demanding we take note, and we be best to do so. Also, they've got Adam Starkweather working with them now. And, I'm sorry, I'm a big Adam Starkweather fan. I think he does good stuff. I don't know that everybody thinks that. I do, but they're also doing good things these days. Compass Games. That was Battle Hymn Volume 1. We're a little over halfway through the list. That brings us to, it wouldn't be a proper list if I didn't have my pride and joy in here. ASL Forgotten War. Definitely worth a notable game of 2018. Why? Isn't there tons of ASL stuff already, and why do you need more? No, there's not a ton of Korean War ASL stuff. This is a brand new foray for uncharted territory for ASL. ASL has always been World War II stuff, right? Right. For the first time, ASL officially, now the third-party publishers have tried and failed, notably Critical Hit, to do this, but they've attempted. This is the first official entry for ASL into something other than World War II. And why not Forgotten War? I mean, there isn't too much of a difference. It isn't too much of a stretch to adapt the rules and allow them to work for Forgotten War. Now, you might ask, well, what about helicopters? Well, you know how they dealt with helicopters in this? They left them out. They left them out, and here's why. Because helicopters during the Forgotten Korean War were primarily used for evacuating the wounded. I suppose you could have had that in there for historical reliability and flavor, but you want to keep the thing at a digestible level as far as the rules. You might be laughing because ASL certainly is not one to shy away from tons of rules, but you want to keep this somewhat concise in what you're doing. And if helicopters really don't affect things one way or another, battle wise, just leave them out. And that's what they did. So, Forgotten War deals with particularly the years 1950 through 1953, and some of the rules, new rules development. It covers steep hills. And why steep hills, you ask? Well, this reflects the difficulties of moving and also combat in rugged Korean terrain. And much of the fighting that took place did occur in mountains and steep hills. Covers bayonet charges, proximity fuses, enhanced air support featuring tactical air control parties, airborne forward air controllers, and the jet-propelled aircraft of the era. Jets in ASL. Can you hardly even believe it? Who'd have thunk it? Such as the F-80C Shooting Star and the F-9 F-2 Panther. Of course, you get some new nationalities with this. You get United Nations forces, the UN forces, the Republic of Korea, other United Nations commands known as OUNC, representing forces from some such countries as Colombia, Ethiopia, France, Thailand, Turkey. You get the U.S. Army and U.S. Marine Corps. Then you got some British and Commonwealth forces in there. You can get some communist forces, right? Korean People's Army and the Chinese People's Volunteer Army. 4 maps, 7 counter sheets, 16 scenarios, your Chapter W rules, Chapter H rules, 2 chapter dividers, a box and a lid. Like that, Dan? So there you go. That was Forgotten War. And I guess honorable mention, you could say Hatton and Flames, but that's kind of a side thing. But definitely Forgotten War, worth mentioning. And I do own that, and I'm glad I lived long enough to see the release of that. That is something. What else? All right. Let's go to a small-time self-publisher guy, much like myself. Came close to having him in the magazine. I was like, hey, you want to do an article? He's like, yeah. And that was the end of it. I never followed through. I thought he would send something, and I guess he was waiting for me to send him a questionnaire or a tailored list of what I wanted, but poor communication, and I apologize, Matt White, on my behalf. Um, but this is Until the Bitter End, Matt White, and this is a testament to the day and age we live in. Some would say it's a bad thing because you're going to get a lot of crap if it's easy to produce a game and distribute it to the public. Anybody can do it. You're going to get crap, and yeah, you're going to get junk, but you're going to get some diamonds in the rough as well. And also, it's a good thing that you don't have a conglomerate of 11 or 12 game companies that you're forced to go through, or nothing. So, what is it? It is a print and play World War II war game after my own heart for 2 players and solitaire that takes around half an hour to set up and play. You've got a small squad of British airborne against their Germans enemies and a series of small skirmish scenarios. Let's see, what else does it say here? Uses random shit pull. In each turn, the players randomly pick a pull shit from the mug and activate their infantry. There's nothing too complicated there. Pretty straightforward stuff. Combat is simple and effective without needing buckets of dice. Close combat is particularly brutal. It talks about something called snap fire, which is a defensive fire mechanic where your infantry counters can fire on moving enemy counters, basically op fire, I guess. Then it says the game features a unique mechanic in the shape of bravery points. These can be used to force the enemy to re-roll a dice against one of your infantry counters, but should you lose, you will have less bravery points for the rest of the game. And as far as the solitaire aspect of this, takes the key gameplay from the two-player games such as combat, resolution, and movement, and layers in specific rules for solitaire play, AI for the opposing German forces, and special solitaire scenarios. And finally, the solitaire game features a full and simple AI to handle the opposing force that will take you step by step to which order the enemy counters should be activated and or their actions. That is Until the Bitter End. Matt White, and I believe, yeah, in fact, he does the artwork as well, and the artwork is pretty damn good. Now, if you go to Board Game Geek to look at this thing, for some reason, the only image you're going to see is the cover of the thing, but you'll get a taste of what the artwork is. It's pretty good stuff. So I thought that was worth mentioning. Until the Bitter End, Matt White. And let's see, a couple others here. I'm going to make mention of Horse and Musket. Now, this is Sean Chick with Hollenspiel, and I'll briefly, if you will allow me to rehash how I met Sean. He came into the library asking about a Shiloh book on the Battle of Shiloh, and got to talking, and lo and behold, not only does he live a stone's throw away, he's a war gamer, but more, he designs them. And when we started doing the name drop game, and he the stuff that he rattled off and the stuff that I rattled off, we knew we were both legit. He's got, among other things, but in particular, if you go to Hallenspiel, he's got a Horse and Musket series, and his second and third volume of the Horse and Musket series were released last year. Apparently, he's attempting to reconstruct the battles of the entire an entire era. Let's see, 18th century. It says 7 Years' War. So if that's your thing, I'd give that a look. Sean's a great guy. I had a lot of fun talking to him. We did lunch finally one day, and he had a lot to say about the game industry and his opinion of some publishers and getting submissions to people, and his experiences with that, working with Hallenspiel, etc. was very interesting. Maybe sometime I can get him on for an interview. Since he lives here, I could get him over to my house, and that would solve the technical how to do it over the internet. Let him tell you directly himself his experiences with wargaming and designing and dealing with publishers. You might find that as interesting as I did. And then finally, for 2018, of note, and I'm leaving, understand, and I know, I'm leaving things out. 1985, Under an Iron Sky, I left that out. Cataclysm, the Second World War, I left that out. Night Fighter Ace, At Any Cost Mets, 1870. Long Street Attacks, Raiders of the Deep, Normandy, The Beginning, Atlanta is Ours, Smolensk, Barbarossa Derailed. You know, that is a real... I thought ASL was a cash cow for M&P. It kind of is. You know what the cash cow for M&P is? OCS, SCS, TCS. There's no end to that stuff. And I have a number of these games, and I would say, how many of those games do you need? But then you could argue, how many ASL games do you need? It's the same system, just a different skin. Well, same with OCS, SCS. It's the same system, just different skin. But people do not seem to get tired of this stuff, and they just keep pumping it out. Good for them. Königsberg re-release of a game that I have. I have the original. Um, Bra Last Eagles, the newest Eagles release in the Hexes series. I left all these out. You know, there's only so much time. But don't think I'm not aware of them or just blowing them off. But anyway, that's the list for 2018. And a nice, healthy, wholesome list. Lots of games came out in 2018. What were your favorite games? What did you play? What did you enjoy? What did you hate? I know for some of you it's a drag to put comments below a video, but I read them. I respond when I find it interesting and worth responding to. So honestly, feel free to put down what you found enjoyable. Others might find it beneficial to know what people got a kick out of, what to save their money on, etc. So that was the list for 2018. And then, let's see, I thought we would take a look, we'll take another quick break, come back and take a brief look at just a very few items that I have my eye on for 2019.
Big brown sack and throw it away. No one needs leftovers anyway. A juggernaut truck filling up with the trash. Is anybody hungry? Don't say I didn't ask. Eagle never harms the fly. Listen and I'll tell you why. The sky. That's why. That's why.
All right, so let's take a look at 2019 briefly. See what we can see. First off, a game that has been. I got my notes all messed up here. A game that has been going to come out, right? That's the best way I can put it. Been going to come out. When? Going to come out. Going to come out yet? Nope, but going to come out. New England Simulations is a company that has released a few games. Now, they haven't released much in a while. Why? Going to come out. Winner's Victory is what I'm waiting on. They released the Overlord game, Killing Ground. It looks like Napoleon on the Danube and a Dresden game. But it's this Winner's Victory thing, as I mentioned. Battle of Prussia Eylau, 7th, 8th of February, 1807. That is going to be the definitive Eylau game. Once you get this, you're not going to need another Eylau game. You can use the ones you have for cannon fodder. This is the one. There's 4 map sheets measuring 25.5 by 33 inches each. This is a ginormous monster of a game. There will be one on there. So it's trying to say, which they write oddly. There's going to be player aids printed on the maps. Player aids and tables printed on the maps. You got 116 yards of hex. Each elevation is represented as a different shade. It looks great. It's a winter map, and I don't know why, but I'm just mesmerized by it. So what else we have? You can go to type in New England Simulations. It's going to take you to a site called carpetina.com /NES/. You can click on Winner's Victory, read about it, look at the map, look at the game. What is the newest release date? Winter of 2018. I think they had put winter of 2017. It got bumped. What I don't expect to see this. I'm hopeful. I don't expect to see this winter 2018. I'm pretty confident it'll be next year. I hope it will be next year and not any later. And I think I watched Duke of Joe's video of Console World Expo. Is that where he went? It was his first war game convention. You can see them playing this or play testing this, I should say, and it lives up to expectations as far as at least as far as aesthetics. Um, 2,500 counters. So yeah, this is not a walk in the park. This is the real deal. At 110 sided die. Huh. So that I am looking forward to. Let's see, what else am I looking forward to? Let's take a look here. All right, looks like we have Race for Bastogne from M&P GTS or Grand Tactical System, I believe is what that is. Yeah, Grand Tactical Series, and this covers says one sliver in the history of the Battle of the Bulge. On the 16th of December 1944, the Germans landed their great offensive through the Ardennes, or I should say launched, and looks like it deals with Bastogne in particular. Let's see, defending was part of the 110th Infantry Regiment of the 28th Infantry Division. It should have been a blitzkrieg through the thin defenses, but stubborn resistance, the terrain, and the well-managed commitment of American reinforcements caused the German attack to fail to take Bastogne just as the 101st Airborne Division arrived. Even as German forces bypassed Bastogne to extend the Bulge, the 101st was hard-pressed to defend the critical crossroads town. This simulates the German attack across the Ur River through the 110th Infantry Regiment. The delaying actions by Combat Command Reserve, 9th Armored Division, and Combat Command B, 10th Armored Division, followed by the defense of Bastogne by the 101st Airborne Division. The game covers the night of 15th of December to the night of 25th of December, and the German initially commands 3 divisions and the American 2 divisions on 2 maps laid end to end. I know what you're going to say, or you have already said, for the love of God, another Bulge game. And you're just going to have to go with it. Doesn't mean you got to get it, but there's going to be Bulge games. There's going to be Market Garden games. There's going to be D-Day games. But what we hope for in these releases is different angles, innovation, clever, yet to be tried or used systems. Yeah, for games that are going to be released, and we already have those games. I get it. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. A lot of game companies will pad their coffers with old reliable and just put out some junk because they know it'll sell. But you got to be able to, filter through the stuff. And I'm thinking this might be one for those either that don't have a ton of Bulge games or Bastogne area games. Maybe this is something that will interest you. Maybe not, but take a look. That's on the M&P website. Race for Bastogne. Also, quickly, still waiting for the Red Factories, which is the Red Barricades combined ASL expansion. Red Factories will combine with, or I should say, Red October will combine with Red Barricades to make a gigantic historical ASL module. Hope to see that. Well, we will see that in 2019. I do have that on pre-order as well. And that leaves, let's take a look at, there's something called, and this might interest you guys. I don't know that it's my thing, but just because it's not my thing doesn't mean I shouldn't mention it. And I'm talking about A Glorious Chance, the naval struggle for Lake Ontario in the War of 1812. Legion War Games, who some of you are probably familiar with, number of games that they have released. I will read to you about this. A Glorious Chance is a solitaire war game that pits you in command of the U.S. or British Naval Squadron on Lake Ontario in the critical summer of 1813. You have 4 months to dominate the lake, but each patrol, each convoy mission, each amphibious landing you make to pursue victory risks full scale battle with the AI squadron, a battle that could leave you triumphant or shattered in a matter of hours. A dynamic card driven AI opponent assigns enemy missions, refits and launches new ships and plots raids on your supply routes and coastlines. Your objective, if you should choose to accept, is to control Lake Ontario by the end of the summer campaign without losing your own squadron. The AI squadron's strategic objectives and battle tactics react dynamically to your moves. Gameplay: make decisions about ship missions and assignment zones. Scout and shadow enemy forces to identify them. Intercept detected enemy forces. And make amphibious assaults. Attack and defend supply convoys. What's special about this game, you ask? Here we go. Two things. It's the only operational Age of Sail game that's below monster size, playable in approximately 4 hours, give or take, and it doesn't require any specialized knowledge of ship handling or period tactics. That is fantastic because I've wondered about this stuff. I don't have a lot of experience in Age of Sail, esque games. What would be a good entry point? Perhaps this would be a good entry point. Two, this campaign has never before been the specific focus of a war game. So there you go. So let's see. That says 2019, again, Legion War Games. That was a glorious chance. The naval struggle for Lake Ontario in the War of 1812. A battle I know nothing about. So always stuff to learn. And there's already, if you go to Broadsword 56 on YouTube, you can see a demo of this thing. It looks pretty interesting. So what else? Yeah, this Broadsword has been doing. I'm going to wonder if Broadsword is Gina Willis. Anyway, that's 2019, and when you plug in 2019 in Board Game Geek, you don't get a lot of hits, but that was one of them, and that was something that I thought was rather interesting. Take one quick look at GMT, see if there's anything I overlooked as far as things coming out, and then we'll kill this episode off. So, newest P500 game editions. Looks like Storm Above the Right could be interesting. You've got, let's take a look at that. Solitary game depicting Luftwaffe squadron struggling to deter and destroy the relentless daylight raids over Germany. Well, how is that different than Skies Above the Reich? Let's see. Like its counterpart, here we go, Skies Above the Reich. The game is a broad strokes depiction that represents the arc of the desperate air war, stretching from late 42 to early 45. So, Storm of the Reich follows a trajectory and a series of missions strung together to make a campaign. I guess it's kind of a, you could call it an expansion for Skies Above the Reich, but it's a standalone game as well. So if you like Skies Above the Reich, you can gear up for Storm Above the Reich. Then you've got Stalingrad 42, Mark Simonich's World War II goodness that will be coming out. Speaking of Bulge games, there's another one called A Time for Trumpets, Battle of Bulge, December 44. That'll be coming out. I don't know if that'll be worth pursuing. Guess we'll find out. Now here's something interesting. All Bridges Burning, Red Revolt, and White Guard in Finland. Why does that appeal to me? Because it's a topic that has not been drowned in 10,000 versions. What does it deal with? Let's see. The year is 1917. Russia's Tsar Nicholas II has abdicated, and Russia slides toward an ever-deepening internal crisis. On the western edge of the vast Russian Empire, the uncertainty in Russia is giving rise to power vacuum and a semi-autonomous Grand Duchy of Finland. For many across the Finnish political spectrum, the turmoil in Russia looks like an opportunity to fulfill the dream of Finnish national independence. Yet the competing factions are unable to agree on a common political vision for the country. By January of 1918, a bloody civil war will have broken out in Finland. This is going to be a coin game, so for those of you who are familiar with that and like the coin series, there you go. And again, I like the topic. Gandhi game, yeah, I know. Mr. President, which is never going to be released. They keep pushing this back and pushing this back and pushing this back. I don't understand. Tank Duel, I'm sure a lot of people will get a kick out of that. It is a fast action card game of World War II tank battles. And I think that's it. So, anything else? Number of GMT, not uncommon. A number of reissues. Why don't you just produce more of? It's a marketing. Excuse me. It's a marketing thing. They always do these reprints. Why wouldn't you just do a bigger printing? Is it because you don't know how well it will do, or is it because you anticipate there will be fixes and errata, and you can say, hey, buy this again, or hey, if you didn't buy it the first time, buy it this time because this is the updated, expanded, corrected edition. I don't know. So that's about it. I think we'll leave it at that. That was a look at 2000, a brief glimpse into 2019. I'm sure there will be some some surprises. I expect there will be some surprises that we're as of yet unaware. Hence, surprise. Let's hope. And if 2019 is as good as 2018, we'll be just fine. Because 2018 was a year flush in game releases. Um, so that was a good thing. As far as anything else, let's see. Before I let you guys go, don't believe so. Remember to grab a copy of the Hexes and Soldiers magazine. I believe it's going to come to $9.95 plus shipping. You'll be able to get that on the HNS Games Wix site. That would be hexesandsoldiers.wixsite.com, and you can grab it there. This is a physical thing. This is not a digital thing. It's not a download. This is a magazine that you hold in your hands and love and cherish. What else? I think that about does it. I hope you guys have a safe holiday and a great Christmas. I hope you guys have a good New Year's. Be nice to each other. Be patient. And keep gaming. Talk to you guys later.